So here we go again. We're doing the eye tracking test. This is eye tracking auto area AF set for people on my Nikon Z6II. It's backlit situation and 12,800 ISO. So I'm just going to show you the equivalent exposure. When I'm using 12,800 ISO, I'm able to get a shutter speed of 1,000th of a second when I'm shooting at f2.8. And that's to guarantee that my subject is going to be frozen. There'll be no motion blur. So this really helps to achieve the ability to see if focus is accurate. But then in addition, just so you understand how dark it is, at 100 ISO, I'd be shooting at 1/8 of a second if I was using f2.8. So here's a quick, you could say viewfinder grab, the EVF, and I'm just grabbing it live. And you can see the tracking box moving around, and my subject's pretty backlit. She's doing some spins, and she's going to go out of frame. And you're even going to see me, again, fire off some frames. So the viewfinder will brighten quickly and give you a few, there we go, a couple little bursts. But in total, shot several basically bursts at different settings, including the focus tracking setting being changed from 3 to 1 and to 5. That's the focus tracking with lock on. Now I didn't include those. I kept this brief. This is only about 12 minutes. But you're going to see this sequence that I shoot, about 200 frames, all JPEGs, so that there's no adjusting, no tweaking, no nothing. And again, just as you're watching this, there's that focus tracking box changing from face to eye, and sometimes she goes out of frame and she's backlit. You know, I got lots of feedback from people saying, well, no, the camera does not work with backlighting. It just can't focus on eyes. It's garbage. Okay, well, I don't know. Here's mine. Maybe mine's special. She's doing a little spin there. There's some bursts. And we're going to get into our various images in about a second. So we've got that all set. So you can see she's moving around. And she's doing a lot of, things. So here we go. So again, it's autofocus area with eye tracking on for people, strong backlighting, 12,800 ISO, 1,000th of a second, f2.8, and focus tracking with lock on set to 3. So that's a default. And we're going to step through. There's 203 frames. There's my reference frame where she's static. She's not moving. I just took a quick shot so you can see the detail of her eyes. Now this is not 100 ISO, it's 12,800, so don't expect incredible crisp detail like you get with 100 ISO. But here we are just stepping through and going through the various frame by frame. And you can see the red tracking box on her eye moving across, going through. And I'm actually going to give you some close-ups, some full 100% views with the focus tracking box. So there, she's starting to drift, she goes out of frame. Camera's looking forward and backlighting, and she kind of jumps up and comes back down, and there finds her face and her eye again and again and again and again. And by the way, no, this is not 100%. I have the bursts of 200 frames. I did not get 200 frames perfectly in focus. But you'll see in a moment if you watch, if you can hang in there for 12 minutes, you'll get an idea of how many frames were out of focus. It's not what you might expect. With all the negativity and all the bashing, and of course with all new cameras, everybody is saying that, this Nikon camera series that are a couple years old, they just don't work. So these Z6s, Z7s, Z6IIs, and Z7IIs, they can't track eyes in backlighting. Well, here you go. Now notice the box is off of her. We're going to see what that turns out like. The eye's back and acquired again. And you're going to also see highlights, how bright this scene actually is. If you are watching the histogram, you're going to see that, it's pretty backlit. It's pretty strong backlighting. So just working through here, about 150, we've got a few more to go. Again, if you're watching this in 4K or in high HD, I guess you could say, you're seeing that box. But don't worry, I'm going to zoom in and give you some ideas of the quality of focus, which is really the key. So if you can bear with me. I'm trying to make this a little quicker. Last video was a little bit long, maybe a bit wordy. So here we go. Coming down to those last few, we got about 15 more frames to go. And you can see that box is on her eye. It keeps going with her. And I'm going to do a detail of the spin as well. So let's go in here now. There's that final frame where she's static. And just zoom in here for a second. So there's the eye. She's been moving through this whole sequence. There's the eye. How's the eyelashes? Pretty good, right? Let's go to another one. So just pan up here, and I'm going to cut ahead a little bit just to make it a little faster so that we can get through these a little quicker. Just pan over this image. How's the eye? And I'm picking these at random. Remember, I'm not rehearsing and finding only the sharp ones. There we go again. So I'm not trying to fool anybody. I'm just doing it as it really is. There's no benefit to me. If the camera stinks, I'm going to say it. If it is average, I'll say it. So here, I just jumped ahead a little bit for you so that you're not sitting here forever wasting lots of time. It's in focus. Notice her eyes are sharp. Now this next frame, not in focus. So how does it do? We'll just step ahead one frame. That's the second frame that's blown. Oh, third frame is back. So I lost 2 frames there. That's 2 out of 200. And she's turning, and I'm just following that sequence because we were out of focus on a couple frames. And now she's turning, so it's losing her eye, and oh, it's focused on her hair. It's focused on her hair. It's looking, it's going to start looking. It's going to switch to face. There, it's looking for face rather than eyes. Let's just zoom out. She's got her back to the camera. She's backlit. So yeah, eye detect doesn't work, absolutely. So now she's facing the camera. It's grabbed the eye. Just zoom in on this. Not quite in focus. It's still working. So there's another frame that's out. Another one that's out. Oh, it got her this time. So it took a couple seconds. Remember, I'm shooting 12 frames a second. I'm shooting in JPEG large to make sure I get the highest frame rate out of this camera. And okay, can't find her. It's going to zoom in, or rather start looking. There we go. It's tracking, it's finding, can't find her. It's lost her. So this must all be out of focus, right? Every single frame must be out of focus. So I'm waiting, still not found her. Is she out of focus? Let's find out. Isn't that a little surprising? We don't have the box. Whoops, let's just jump in back on that again. There we go. We don't have the focus tracking or the focus box on her, but you know what? She's pretty much in focus. There we go. Look at those eyelashes. That's what I'm going by. I know someone's going to say, well, it's eyelash focus. Well, get over it. It's focused on her eyes. There we go. Got her eye again. It's tracked her eye. And still got her eye. And still got her eye. And still got her eye. She's moving. If you saw those, if you didn't jump ahead, but if you watched, you'll see the sequence. So here's that. This is 45 frames, pretty much just going to go through, and you can just see the motion. And she does her spin. So these are those same frames we just analyzed, but I'm just playing them without the focus tracking box and everything else, or the focus box. There was a little blur there. There's that one that's out of focus. There she's sharp again, and she's spinning and spinning. And again, remember, this is not good lighting. This is bad lighting. It's dim in the room. It's 12,800 ISO. Her eyes are closed. No, her eyes are open. And it seems to be tracking her eyes. But according to some very hairstyled people, this is impossible. I don't know what to say. Here we go. You know, some people just seem to know how to make a camera fail. I'd rather see how I can make my camera work. Just me. Let's keep going and going and going. We're just going to finish this off. Again, I'm just following through with much more detail. Rather than all those little thumbnail views, you can just see how this box is tracking. I'm going to have her jump down and sort of jump around. Now that's out, obviously. That's out. That's 2. Oh, it's back. So I lost a couple frames there again. And believe me, I've looked at all of these at 100%. And there you go. I'm not hiding anything, as I said. nice and sharp, 12,800. That's a pretty high ISO, or for those that like ISO for some reason, you can say ISO. Here we go, back in. So she went up and out, and she's coming down, and she's gonna go kind of down out of frame. That's out, definitely out. No, that's back. And it's good, and good, and good. Oh, no, that's good. That one's off. And that's definitely out, and out, and definitely out. But she's out of the frame. So, I mean, yeah, if it's not in focus when she's out of the frame, yeah, I kind of expect that. Again, I'm using nasty, harsh lighting. She's back. Now, again, she's not tracked by the box. Remember, we saw that earlier when we were doing those thumbnails. So was her eyes still in focus through this? Yes. Whoops, let's get back to that. There we go. Yes. And again. So I'm not always certain that that little red box that the metadata, gets embedded in the file to show where the focus point was is always exactly right on the mark. The camera's still focusing. I think people are getting hung up on little boxes instead of just shooting photos and worrying about the subject's expression and the motion and the moment. There's a little bit too much worry about some of the technical details instead of the photography aspects of it. That's my take anyway. So here we go. She's going down and sort of going to the bottom of the frame. She's coming back up. And let's take a look at the highlights. How blown out are the highlights in this image? Let's go to show highlights. Boom. You get the reading here of what this is going on in this histogram. This is a nasty lighting condition. Let's get rid of that. There we go. And I'm going to continue and continue. And we've got just a few more frames. We'll just jump out of this. There's our last few frames. We've looked at all of these as they go in sequence. Get that for the last static frame. So there we go. Okay, so here, just to watch that tracking box again, we've seen this, but just to remind you, this is how the camera is responding to the lighting conditions. Maybe someone's little boxes are faster, but I think that's kind of an irrelevant point. I think people are hung up and lack confidence in their skills as photographers, as opposed to, they're more concerned about having confidence in a little box. So again, you can see there's a burst I shot. That gives you a better idea of how the autofocus system is working in backlit conditions. The eye tracking works, or it works for me anyway. So give it a try. I think you might be surprised.